Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. My name's Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, recording from the Unscripted studio at the Junction in Old Hilliard, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
Great Redeemer, God of grace.
All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted from my basement and soon-to-be studios at the Junction in Old Hilliard. We're going to run real fast today because Coach is just kind enough to give me some of his time, and he's a busy man. And we actually got some breaking news here 2 seconds before we jumped on about Coach Roy Williams, so I'd love to get his feedback on that. But he needs no introduction, but let me run through a quick introduction because I really want to get to the meat of what our conversation is today with Coach Jimmy Dykes, college player, coach at the college level, a husband, a father, a man of faith. He is an ESPN College Basketball Analyst and author of the book, which I really want to talk about today, The Film Doesn't Lie. Coach, welcome to Unscripted.
Hey, Aaron, thanks for having me, man. It's great to be on with you. And I know that Roy Williams news kind of hits you because you're a Carolina fan that you are, but man, what a career that he's had. And man, he loves that North Carolina University. And I'm so happy for Coach. I've gotten to know him pretty well over the years, and he deserves now to do whatever he wants to do for as long as he wants to do it.
Absolutely. He's earned that right, and we could probably spend 20 minutes just talking about Coach Roy, but you're an SEC guy, and I have been a fan of your coverage of college basketball as long as I've been a college basketball fan. So I'm just so honored that you would be on with us today. And I really don't, I could literally sit here and just give you roses, as they say today, all day long, because I'm just a massive fan. And you know that we've exchanged a lot of email. What I really want to do is jump into the book, because your book, The Film Doesn't Lie, is one of the top 3 books I've ever read. And I think it might be pushing Quiet Strength by Tony Dungy is maybe number 1.
Thank you.
It rocked my world, Coach. And I anybody that hears this, I want them to hear that this isn't your standard book review. This book rocked my world, and I've know other people that have picked it up that it's rocking their world too. So can we jump into some quotes from the book and just have you maybe unpack those a little bit, just to give people an idea of what the book is about?
Sure.
Do you want to start? Let's tee it up first. Why did you write the book?
Well, out of obedience, Aaron, out of obedience. God really kind of, as he will do at certain times in our life, laid something on my heart that I knew I was called to do. So I wrote it out of obedience with no preconceived perception at all, what he would do with the book, how he wanted to use it. I just knew I was supposed to write it, clear my heart, and write what he told me to write. So I've been really amazed, as always, when God calls us to do something, how he ends up using it. I've seen it, the impact that it's had on so many people across the country, not just coaches, but just normal everyday guys and people in life that are taking the time to get quiet before God and really evaluate where they are, like we do as coaches, and study our game film. That's where you get better. And that's kind of how it all went down. And I've been very blessed. It's been out now for a little over a year. It's really taken off in the last few months with a lot of men's accountability, cell groups, small groups within their churches, kind of using it as a workbook to work through, which is pretty easy to do. If you read the book, you realize, this could also be a workbook. So that's kind of how it got started. And I'm very, very blessed, very humbled that God continues to use that book in a lot of people's lives.
It's awesome. So let me fly through quotes because I know our time's limited. The voice of the leader carries the most weight. That's my first quote that I have several I have 10 pages of notes. So as I told you last night, I got a lot of notes. I did a lot of game study film. The voice of the leader carries the most weight. What do you mean?
Well, in any area of life, whether it's the leader on a job, the leader in a locker room, or in my book, the leader in your home, that voice carries the most weight. And I think we all need to stop and evaluate where we are in that role, because we all, at some point in our life, our voice is the leading voice. And it might just be the leading voice for yourself. What are you saying to yourself? Does it align with God's written word? Are you saying things that are true? Are you saying things that are an attack from the enemy that you've just bought into, and now you start repeating it yourself? So I think the voice of a leader, I know it has the most impact and carries the most weight.
Absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. And I'm not trying to fly through because I could unpack every one of these for a long time, but
good.
Not this one, there's two that I have. This one is the one, there's two that I think I want to etch in stone one day. Not everything that gets your attention deserves your attention. What do you mean there? Because I love that quote.
Yeah. Well, how many things already this morning? I've been up from, 3 or 4 hours. How many things have tried to grab my attention?
Right.
It's almost an endless list already. The voices, the messages, the things I see on TV, it's just nonstop. The attacks that are fighting for our attention, the attention of our heart, the attention of our eyes, the attention of our ears. But not everything deserves to have our attention. Mm-hmm. We can't stop those things coming at us, but we can certainly control what gets inside of us. And I know God has really taught me a lot about that in terms of the value of where I place my eyes, the value of what I allow into my ear, which eventually gets into my heart, how guarded I am with that, with having a close circle of guys around me that are my accountability group. Yeah. Because there's so many things, Aaron, as you know, and your listeners know right now, that are fighting for our attention. Mm-hmm. And most of them aren't good. Most of them aren't good. The world today is trying to pull us away from God instead of attracting us to God. We have to be very intentional about what we ultimately give our attention to. Absolutely.
And you do such a great job in the book of giving us some, so these aren't just quotes. And that's what I want everybody to hear. Get the book, because you don't just drop a quote, you also drop a quote and then some guidelines and some roadmap for us to get there. And that's why I love the book so much. The next one, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a long paragraph. The short of it is, the Cliff Notes version is, you pray before every game that you do. And that, I think, in a world of Twitter trolls, and look, I'm a college basketball fan. I have some favorites and some non-favorites that I listen to. I wonder why ESPN puts some guys on and doesn't highlight other guys. And all that. You pray before every game that what you say reaches your audience. Is that fair? Did I say that the right way?
Yeah, I just finished my 23rd year with ESPN. I've done games, all from Alaska to Maui to Atlantis to the SEC to every major conference. I've been all over the world in college basketball. God's been very good to me, but he's also given me a platform and a stage. And I want to make sure that when I'm doing my job, my words are accurate. They are they come from an educated, prepared view of me. But ultimately, my words are protected by God. I'm honoring him with how I work, all those things. So I say that because I use that as a demonstration in the book. I put so much emphasis on my words for 2 hours on national TV. Why don't I have that same importance for the other 22 hours of the day? Because my tongue sometimes loses its discipline off the TV. And that continues to capture my attention, drive me to be better as a leader in my home, as a husband, as a dad, knowing that everything I say is going to be taken to truth by somebody. So, that's even this year, I did most of my games. I did think that 55 games this year, 45 of those were in my home office right here where I'm sitting right now. But I still pray before every broadcast that God would speak through me. My tone would be right. My attitude would be right. And I would, honor him with how I work. It's pretty simple as how I say it.
Well, and you've teed it up perfectly. And I want to say, when I read the book Quiet Strength by Tony Dungy, I kept saying, is this guy for real? Like, is this guy real? And I want you to know there's only one other time that's happened in my life and I've read a lot of books. There's only one other time that's happened is when I read yours. Is this guy for real? Like, does that really happen? And I do believe, based on everything I read and everything I've seen in your life, both socially and anything I know about you, it is. You are real. And what the people will read in the book is absolutely who you are. And that's the mark of a real, it's just amazing. And that's why I appreciate it so much. So
yeah, well, thank you.
Absolutely. So you teed it up perfectly, because the next three quotes are these. I am reminded that how you speak to your children becomes their inner voice. And it's one of the most important things a parent should understand. Wow. And let me get the other two out and then we'll talk. As a dad, the impact of the words is heavier than the words of anyone else in my daughter's life. No one can tear her down or build her up quicker than I. One more to go. As the designated leader of my home, our words should have the most impact. The question becomes, what impact are those words truly having? Coach, that's those three things. I have chills right now because those three things, as a dad of three children myself, 2 daughters and a son, man, the first one especially, that becomes their inner voice. Can you talk about that for a minute? Unbelievable quotes.
Yeah, well, I think especially for a dad with daughters, I think we need to realize that the example we set, the words we use, the tone we use, how we lead our family is pretty much going to be what they end up being attracted to in their home husband someday.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of pressure, but that's the job that God gave us. And I think many men run from that, ignore that, don't emphasize that enough. I am far, far from perfect, man, in that area.
Right.
But I do know our 15-year-old daughter looks at me in a way that she looks differently than any other man in her life. And I only have so many years to make that impression, to speak my words into her heart with not only the truth of what I'm saying, but how I'm saying it, because she's going to carry that with her, I think, throughout her life. And my voice, she has a lot of voices in her life, and she will going forward. But I think at the core of who she becomes, how she sees life, the value she puts in a husband someday, the expectations of what the house is supposed to look like, it's all going to be set by me or you or any other dad listening to this right now.
Yeah.
And we can ignore that. We can brush that away. We can de-emphasize that, or we can step up and say, you know what? God's blessed me as a leader and I need to lead. Yeah. I need to lead the right. I'm not saying I'm going to be perfect about it, but I do need to be intentional about how I'm leading my home and the voice that I have in my wife and my daughter's ears or my son. I'm just speaking specifically about a daughter because that's what we have.
Right. You nailed it. And I am firmly with you on all that. And again, I don't want to skip quickly to the next thing, but you said something in the book as well that I came from I'm in the amateur sports world as an occupation. And so I see this a lot with parents. And as, again, I'm a parent of 3 children, 3 athletes. This was such an important thing. The success or lack of success of your children let me start over. The success or lack of success our children have in sports is not an indication on how good of a parent we are. But having a child that is respectful of authority, disciplined, with their own tongue, gives great effort, and is coachable, tough, and caring teammate is a direct reflection of who we are as a mom and dad. Can you talk about that for a second? Because I think that's so missed in our world today. I think we see our kids. Too many people are living through their kids for what they didn't do, or look at their kids on the field as a reflection on them. Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people missing on that. I saw it when I was coaching at the college level and how parents acted at summer AAU events. Right. And the pressure, the embarrassment that they were putting on their own children, because at the end of the day, your value as a parent, how you're judged as a parent, is not going to be how good your son shot the 3-point shot. Absolutely. Or how fast your daughter was in track, or how good of a cheerleader your daughter was. No, that will never come up in a conversation with God. What will come up is, how did you lead your child? How did you teach your child? What did you emphasize to your child? What seeds did you plant in the heart of your child? And it has nothing to do with those accomplishments that they have on the field, on the track, on the dance floor, whatever. But man, how easy it is to miss on that. And to think that if our daughter's not on the front row of the cheerleading formation, she's on the back row, that's a reflection of us. And or if my son's doesn't get to play as many minutes, he doesn't get to shoot the ball, just keep on going down the line. We get it confused and think that's a reflection on me as a parent. Our pride gets involved. We put more pressure on kids. We say things to coaches we shouldn't be saying. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's not it.
Yeah.
That's not it. That's not it. This is a very, very temporary period of your life with your child.
Absolutely.
And make sure that again, that voice, how you're leading them has lifelong impact and implications, and eternal impact and implications, and not the other thing. It's so easy for the world, man, to drag us into my two kids down the road made the travel ball team, and my son didn't. Right. And the pressure, the out of balance that your house now becomes, it is very real in our country right now.
Absolutely. I love, and again, I think we could spend 20 minutes on every one of these quotes that I've given you. But it is Easter week. I don't know when people are going to hear this, but when you and I are recording, it's Easter week. We're actually just a few days away from Good Friday. And I know that's important to you. I know it's important to me. So let's jump on forgiveness for a minute, because one of the quotes that you said is, there is no other act that is tied to obedience more than the act of forgiveness. Can you talk about forgiveness for a minute?
Yeah, that chapter has resonated with more people than any other chapter in the book.
It's tough.
That's what I've heard back from, because it's hard.
It's hard.
And all of us, if we take the time to really get quiet and get very authentic and very real with God and let him speak to us, we probably have some type of unforgiveness in our heart that needs to be dealt with. Not because I'm saying it, because God's written word says it.
Absolutely.
And God took me through that process over some different circumstances in my own life, and taught me, first of all, my entire relationship with him is based upon forgiveness, and the importance that he places on that word with us, with everyone that comes across our path in our life. And when you start digging into forgiveness, like God asks us to dig into forgiveness, it will change you as a person.
Yeah.
It will keep your heart clear before God. But the reason why I made that statement is it does not come natural. There's nothing about forgiving on the level that God asks us to forgive that we are wired to do just naturally. Right. Therefore, it becomes an act of obedience. Am I going to do what God tells me to do in his written word in regard to this bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness I have in my life, or am I not? It comes down to that. It comes down to a choice saying, God, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it because you've told me to do it. Help me, teach me, show me, be patient with me, but don't let me off the hook in this area of my life.
Man, it's awesome. I know we're running up against your hard stop.
No, we're good. I got 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. All right.
Yeah. He just texted that he's running 5 minutes late, so we're good.
Man, see, that's a all right. This is the most important one, and this is a life quote for me, again, etched in stone the rest of my life. If something's going to be important to you on the last day of your life, you better make it important to you now. Can you talk about that?
Well, I would ask our listeners right now to just think quickly, what's going to be important to you on the last day of your life?
Right.
It's probably not going to be how well my daughter did in dance. Okay. Those would be some good memories.
Absolutely.
But what's going to be important on your last day? Okay. Well, to me, it is, am I right with the Lord? Did I live my life in a way that I was called to live? Not that I was perfect, but did I keep God in the place in my life that he deserves to have?
Absolutely.
I think most people are going to want to know that and have that peace about them. So that's something that you probably shouldn't wait till the last 30 minutes to figure out.
Right.
How did I treat people? How did I treat people that God crossed my path over all those years?
Absolutely.
Do I have a clean heart towards others? The relationship with not only my wife or my husband, but our kids, our family members. How did I lead them? How did I treat them? How did I teach them? All those things. What did I do with my time in terms of investing with others? Or did I live a life that was all about me? I think that's probably one of the most important things when we get to the end and we look back is what did I do with my life? Was it all about me, or was it all about others?
Right.
I think there's a right and a wrong answer to that.
Right.
I think there's a right and a wrong answer to that. So if those things are going to be important, the last day of your life, if we all knew when that was and we had so many hours left, I think you have to make it important now. And you have to make sure that you're doing your very best and your heart is right and checking those boxes as you go.
Absolutely. The two things I always believe is that God's going to ask us two questions. It's not how did your son or daughter or you do and whatever it is that you did. It's what did you do to glorify my name, and what did you do with the talents I gave you? I truly believe in my life that those are the two things that God's going to ask me one day. And how am I going to answer those? You know? And that drives me. And that quote that I just read about, if it's not important, if it's important to you on the day you die, it better be important to you now, whether that's get it right. You got time. So before we get off, what are the best ways for people to get your book, and and I'll get the links and everything, but what's the best way for people to get your book? Because I absolutely believe everybody has to read this book.
Well, thank you, Aaron. It's the best way. It's available on Barnes and Noble and Amazon and all that. The best way is through the website they set up for it, CoachJimmyDykes.com. Okay. Because those books come to me about every 2 or 3 days. I write a personal note in them, autograph the book, and they get out. That's probably the quickest way to get them from what people have told me. And they have the nice personalized touch from me signing those books. I sit in my office right here 2 or 3 times a week and do that. So awesome. I would encourage the listeners to go to that website, CoachJimmyDykes.com, and order the books there. So I know this. I don't know what the cost of the book is now, $22 or something, but it's a great investment in yourself.
Absolutely. Right.
It's gonna call, if you're really serious about making change in your life, more importantly, allowing God to make a change in your life. I think this book will do that. If you take the time to read it and get quiet before God and carve out time and space in your heart to let him truly speak to you about important stuff in life. I know God has written that book with that purpose. So I really appreciate you having me on. You're phenomenal in your questions and your preparation. I wish we could spend more time today, but down the line, we'll do it again down the line. Just let me know. I really appreciate you having me on today, and happy Easter to everyone. And man, that's the most important day coming up on Sunday when they realize that tomb was empty. And there's a reason, because he's alive right now, man. So thank you very much, Aaron, for having me.
This has been such an honor, and I know we're right up against it, but I do want to thank you, Coach. I know we tried so much, and I know we had a lot of moving dates. I asked you right in the middle of your busiest season, and who does that? But thank you. You are a man of integrity. I'm such a fan, and we've exchanged a lot of emails. I'm so thankful for you, for your message, for this book. It's incredible. And I wish you nothing but success in everything that you do. I'm a fan. I'm not an SEC fan. I'm an ACC guy. So, all right, before we get off, quick question. Now this won't age you well, because we only got a week. Who's your championship favorite?
Gonzaga. Yeah. Absolutely. From day one. When I watched them play a couple of times, they're the best team. That doesn't mean they can win, but if you look at who's got the best players left in the tournament, Gonzaga they may have the best 3, and they're all on the same team. Right. Between Suggs, Kispert, and Drew Timme. But
so good.
Man, just one game. They are so good. So all right, Aaron. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Thank you. Man. We'll talk soon, Coach. Bye.
Okay. Stay in touch.
This has been the latest episode of the Unscripted podcast with your host, Aaron Conrad, from his studio at the Junction in Old Hilliard. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll be back with another great guest soon. We'll see you next time.